Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Facebook Live for Anunciato Plaintiffs. This is only for Anunciato Plaintiffs. I'm one of your hosts, Charles Cook. We've got Jennifer Howard, who's on mute with us today, the wonderful Greg Siskin, and the extraordinary Aaron Hall. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. There was a lot of flurry of emails this morning that we thought it was really important to talk to the Untitled plaintiffs, because there appears to be some idea that somehow you've been disadvantaged in some way, when in fact the opposite is absolutely true. So Aaron, let's talk first about the four different types of Anunciato plaintiffs. Let's talk about the easiest one first, which is the DV 2020 people.
That's the good news. That's the good news. They're covered. They're covered. Right, by Judge Mehta's order and the lifting of the proclamation.
So all of the DV 2020 people, you should be getting on an airplane. Now, by the way, we know that some airlines have said no and airports and this. If you check my last tweet, you will see a phone number that the airline can call, depending on where they are in the world, to confirm that you, with your DV 2020 visa, can board the flight. All right, so get on an airplane and get over here. If you have individual questions about your individual DV case, you should set an appointment with a lawyer or with one of us to talk about it. Don't ask on it over Twitter or the tweet machine or Facebook. You've got an individual situation. But generally speaking, for the Anunciato DV 2020 plaintiffs, come. We're done with you. You are moot, as they say in the law. There's nothing more about your case that we can do in Anunciato. Everything else about your case, if anything, will be handled in the Gomez case. Boom. That right, Aaron? That sum it up?
Okay.
Let's talk about the other two easier parts of the case, which are the family-based and the employment-based plaintiffs.
Why are they easy? It's because to be a plaintiff, that means you already had a current priority number and you are ready to immigrate, but for the consulate not issuing your visa, not adjudicating your visa. And now that the proclamation's out of the way, there's no more barrier. And so what is left is to get you scheduled for a visa appointment and to get your visa issued. I've seen some comments and some emails worrying that we're not talking about the employment-based and family-based people as much as some of the DV stuff, and it's just because there's been some DV issues at play urgently in litigation. But I want people to rest assured that the family-based and employment-based applicants, we are working on their behalf. We had a call about your cases yesterday with the government attorneys. A lot of the pushing that we're doing necessarily is happening behind the scenes, where there can be negotiations that are off the court docket.
Wait a second, Aaron. Are you saying that we're not doing stuff publicly to help our people?
We are. Believe me.
Everything plays out on Twitter, everybody. Okay.
We think that there's now some common interest. The proclamation's off the table. The government attorneys should have an interest in not litigating out full mandamus claims. We sure have that interest, and we would be happy to dismiss those plaintiffs as soon as they are in the United States. And so that's what we're working on trying to make happen.
Okay. That is happening behind the scenes. There's no memos or reports about that. It's just that what we are doing to work with the government on the case. In fact, the filing that you saw yesterday from the government came after our discussion with the government, a rather lengthy discussion about how to resolve this case as we're talking to you, employment-based and family-based folks. Now, nothing other than the ban's ending. I mean, the reason that your plaintiffs in Anunciato was because of the ban. The Department of State took the position that they could not interview, they could not issue you a visa because of the ban.
Right.
And our lawsuit was that's legally wrong. It's an illegal, unlawful interpretation of Section 212F, which the judge is still not ruled on. That is still not there. But their bad faith in not doing it would be held against them if they want to continue to fight about your individual cases and why you should be issued the visas ahead of everybody else. So we are fighting on that path. That's really, really important to understand. And two, we know that in the last 2 days, nobody's had an interview, okay? Nothing magically changed at the consulates over the last 2 days. They didn't suddenly get more money. They didn't suddenly hire more people. COVID didn't get cured. Consulates each have their own issues, and no federal court judge can order a consulate to open now, all right? So, but he can order them to figure out a way to issue visas, and that's what we're working on with the government, and we have actually offered them some solutions to your problems, but we will not talk about those publicly. Sorry, because it's private negotiations and thus really confidential information that, if disclosed, would not be helpful to the ultimate settlement of this case in your behalf. So,
and sending us individual emails demanding to know one by one what our strategy is, or how we're going to react to this document that the government just posted on Pacer. That's not helpful either.
Yeah.
And we're basically, that's a good way to just get your email deleted.
Yeah. So if you have a very specific question about a very specific part of your case, you're welcome to email me. All right. But do not email me demanding documents. We put all the documents up online. The 2 documents yesterday were after I went home, and I had a dentist appointment and a trial this morning. So take a breath. Okay. We've got your back. We've always had your back. And Greg is tired of a million emails. He can't get all the other stuff done if he's constantly answering emails. But we will never not tell you what's going on, all right? So stop with these emails one by one. We're not the government. We're not the consulate. It's just as easy to delete them because they're asking for the stuff that's publicly available.
Right. Or cut and paste. That's like, if you really want to irritate us and have us basically not have any interest in responding to you, then do that.
All right. So now one of the things with all the plaintiffs is we're trying to get you the interviews. There is no class. Just understand. We're going to talk about class in a second. There is no class action. I mean, you're our individual plaintiffs, so we're trying to get you appointments. All right. And that's the key right now. Every plaintiff in this case should have priority on the family-based and employment-based sides because your cases are all current. Most of you have waited a long time for your interviews, and so there's no reason not to do you. So we are working on those cases. All right. Now, so that's that issue. The last group, Aaron, is the DV 2021 group. So why don't we talk about what's going on there?
All right. So this is the group where I'm a little bit confused about some of the chatter going on around this group because there seems to be a group of people who think that our efforts to get visas for plaintiffs in this case, named plaintiffs, is somehow in tension with the effort to make sure that all 55,000 visas are used. And so, Chuck, is there any tension between those two efforts?
No, and in fact, it's not only is there no tension, it's necessary. There is no DV 2021 plaintiff, and we've said this from the beginning, who will get a visa if your number is not current in the visa bulletin. Understand that. Your number has to be available for interview in the visa bulletin, which is why we have to secure all 55,000 visas. It's not necessarily for a class of people because the numbers aren't current. And as Greg pointed out, and as I've said in other videos, they are not where they should be. They should be halfway through the year, and they're not in the April visa bulletin. So it's essential to get the judge to order them to issue all 55,000 visas in order to secure the ability, hopefully, of every plaintiff to be interviewed. But keep in mind, as we've said from the beginning, we know they notified over 130,000 people, a very high number, higher than normal. But as Greg has noted, these folks have done this for 30 years. They don't just randomly throw out numbers. There's a statistical reason they did this, assuming we believe that they probably need that many people to issue the visas. And in some years, the highest numbers just don't get picked. That happens. This lawsuit isn't about making sure somebody who's got the lowest number gets a visa. This is about making sure that all 55,000 numbers are used and that everybody gets a chance. But that's not going to happen if we don't get the judge to reserve all 55,000 numbers. And we don't want to be coming back here, Aaron, in September to get an order at the last minute. This is why we filed so early, to put the court and the government on notice that they have to issue all of these visas. And I think in our conversation with the government, that has become quite clear. And I think personally, that's one of the things the government fears the most is that issue. And we gave some solutions to them for dealing with that issue that would benefit everybody. So the DV 2021, it's essential that we get those 55,000. Now, Aaron, there's several plaintiffs whose numbers are current, right? So the key now for you is to get you an appointment. And that's why we have asked the court. Well, why don't you say what we've asked the court for, Aaron?
Well, first, let me just say, for people who have a number that's current and are just trying to get it in for an interview and get your visa adjudicated, that puts you into the same category that we talked about with the family-based and employment-based people who are ready to go, and all we need to do to moot out their particular claim and dismiss them from the complaint is the government to issue the visa and them to enter the country, and then they're done. Awesome. So they're in pretty much the same situation as the family and employment-based. What we've asked for the court for right now is a status conference, because we need to talk through these issues that Chuck has brought up. And the issue that I think some people are missing is that just because the proclamation is gone doesn't mean that it's irrelevant to these claims. Why? Because the government's going to come back and say, okay, we'll undertake our efforts starting now to process these visas, and we'll do the best we can. Well, that's not going to be good enough, and they shouldn't be allowed to just do the best they can starting now, because we want the judge to recognize and potentially even make a finding saying that the last 5 wasted months have been in bad faith because they were illegally not issuing visas under the no visa policy. And so
everybody, Aaron,
they also, it's also worth noting, they could have been working these cases during the last 5 months so that they wouldn't be very far behind as far as being able to adjudicate. And to our knowledge, nothing has been moving on the DV cases.
Now, why have we asked for a status conference? Well, there's no way to get around the fact that the proclamation being lifted is a huge change in the posture of this litigation. And so it makes sense, I think, for everybody's perspective, for the court, for us, for the government, to get on the same page about what exactly Judge Seaborg wants to see for the next steps, rather than just filing dueling letters, update letters every 3 days to the court. I think we should all get together and talk about exactly what the next steps are. So that's why we have suggested that we really need to have a status conference, and usually they can set that within a week or so.
Now, Aaron, what is the government's position on the effect of the new ending of the proclamation?
Well, the government's position is just that it moots out the whole case, that they should throw out the whole case.
Just go. Close it out. Now, why would the government want that to happen?
Well, for a number of reasons. Because they don't want to fight with us.
They don't want to have to give priority to more people. Because, we have to get an order from the judge to get the priority. I mean, you could send an email now to the consul and say, I'm an Anunciato plaintiff, but they're going to go, so?
Right.
So that doesn't make any, we don't have an order yet. And the thing is, it's not our fault there's no order. I mean, judge has been sitting on this, and maybe it's because he was concerned about that 9th Circuit case, but there's so much more here that he can order on. And also the second amended complaint, which has additional claims in it, is the government's trying to just say, oh, judge, make a decision on mootness and end the case, and then it cancels the second amended complaint after they've been given the grace of not responding to it. So I don't think the judge is going to buy that for a second. And if for some reason he did, we would immediately refile the case and just immediately refile it. But no, that's just it's ridiculous position the government's taking here. So, and again, we did have a constructive conversation with the government, and if we have further discussions, we will likely not tell you unless something comes out of that's helpful. Because these conversations are considered to be confidential in the context of settlement. All right. We got a couple questions here, nowhere near the 1,000 questions we normally get on these. So, Mike Marciante, so the consulates in Europe are still saying, well, can't give you the visa, the Schengen ban. This lawsuit, just understand, this lawsuit never included the other bans. All right. We intentionally didn't include those because those bans, I don't think you can beat them. I mean, I don't think you can beat them. This is where, again, lobbying the powers that be. Okay, so you're going to let DV people in and skip the ban, but not my dad, not my mom, not my kid, not my brother. Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you keeping families apart? Again, this is re-upping it. Why the Biden administration is choosing to be deliberately thick on this, I don't have any idea. Make people take a COVID test before they get on an airplane. Most airlines require it anyway, so it's going to bring a variant here. But Mike, the thing is here, you got to lobby DC. We will, of course, by the way, bring this up to the judge when we have our meeting, but it was never part of this case going forward. All right. Let's see. Elvin, Untitled has been just filled his declaration of intent and get 100 reasons not enter work visas. Like, no, I'm sorry, Elvin. I don't know who's advising you on the law, but you can still get an H-1B, an O. I don't even know what an EB is. So that doesn't impact you at all as far as getting other visas. And honestly, it doesn't even impact you on getting a visitor visa if you ultimately get chosen. My number is 25,000. Give it so we don't get an interview. Well, you don't believe this court will grant an extension. Okay, well, you can believe what you want, Elvin. If you want to give up, I'm going to invite you to leave the lawsuit. But we're not going to give up because we believe we're going to win this. All right. Mohammed Huda, please read this. I know you're not. Of course, we'll have high case from Egypt. I want to know if feasible to be current. I know. I just say okay. I know Egypt. What has to believe not current for Egypt? What is the action plan? This is the action plan, Mahmoud. The action plan is get the 55,000, give you a chance to get the visa. There's no other lawsuit that can be filed to guarantee anybody a slot in the visa bulletin if the numbers don't get current to your number by the end of August, so they can start treating them in September.
Right, but I think that it's an important point to emphasize, and we said this from the beginning. This lawsuit does not guarantee somebody, or we never, if you thought that you were going to have some kind of guarantee, that you were going to be able to get a visa, it's not going to happen if you have a high number and they don't get to those numbers. That is just not, that's not something that this lawsuit is designed to solve. Okay. Now, it is true that we had some DV 2020 people with high numbers that were able to get in the Gomez case. In the Acre case, they were able to get that, but that was because it was September and it was basically everything was current.
They just opened it up to the world.
Right. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen again.
Okay. Now, of course, if they do the same thing in September this year, then you just start rushing the consulates. But all right, the one issue we didn't talk about, Aaron, which was the lottery. I mean, the class certification. So let's see. Greg, can you know who this is? Can you pronounce this?
Sergey Sokolovsky.
Okay, let's go with Sergey here. Sergey asked, what about the class certification? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the reason that we sought class certification from the beginning was to get universal application of a basic principle. These proclamations were illegal. And we wanted the ruling from the judge to benefit everybody. And that's kind of was our position from the beginning. Now, there are 4 subclasses, and whether class certification is needed on each one of them is a little bit different. On a family and employment-based cases, the claim for each plaintiff no longer probably really turns on the common legal issue of the proclamations because the proclamations are gone. And what we're talking about now is unreasonable delay in issuing individual visas or adjudicating individual visas. It's a more individualized inquiry, and it may not be appropriate for class treatment. And so that has clouded that matter. Frankly, our priority now is just getting the named plaintiffs for employment-based and family-based adjudicated and into the country, and working to do everything we can to do that as soon as possible. Now, on the DV 2020, we discussed that. That's moot. There's no need for Judge Seaborg to certify a class there. DV 2021, we may still need a class to get the order that we need to make sure that all 55,000 visas are used. And again, like Chuck explained, that will benefit named plaintiffs to make sure that they have a better chance to get their visas issued as well. So it's likely, and Chuck, add any thoughts that you want to, but I think it's likely that the only class still pursued is the DV 2021. I don't want to speak too declaratively yet, because I want to hear what the court thinks about this at our status conference. But that's what I think the most likely path forward is.
Right. The court could say, class, I'm going to deny the class certification for everybody. To say that tomorrow. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, we have said consistently that we would likely add plaintiffs to the lawsuit, which is why Greg keeps a list. Please do not inundate Greg with lists today, emails today. He's got a very long list. And so we may very well do that. But that's really going to come out, hopefully, of a conversation here with the judge shortly, while we're working on getting you guys interviews. And people keep asking this question, when are they going to start interviewing for DV 2021? And my answer is yesterday. They should have started yesterday, but they haven't. And part of that is what Greg brought up, is they weren't prepared. They didn't have a whole pipeline full. KCC closed down. But I do understand that KCC has been reaching out to some people over the last couple of days, so that is good.
Let me add to that for the family and employment-based folks who might be saying, well, there's no class, so now can I be added as a plaintiff? I don't think it makes sense. I think really your claim, if you want to pursue this in court, it's probably going to be an individualized claim at this point, and you can contact any of the three of our firms, and we can talk you through whether it makes sense for you.
But Andrea, as a plaintiff, we're fighting for your interview at these quasi-closed consulates. And, it's fun. We're immigration lawyers. We do this every day. We help people immigrate. And 1 week, for example, Colombia will be open in Bogota. The next week it's closed. 3 days later, somebody gets a visa there. I mean, the closings are open and shut all around the world. And we don't have a memory to know how many of the 212 consulates are open at any one given time. But we know, for example, at least one of our plaintiffs in Chile got his family-based 2A, got his visa yesterday. So within 48 hours of the order, this young man has his visa and is on his way back to the United States. So we know they're doing it in some places around the world. Abush asked about, yes, Greg.
Just a quick question, because I've had a couple of people ask me this about people who had visas that were issued and ended up expired, and they wouldn't renew them during the ban period. What would you say is probably the likelihood?
I think you write to the consulate and say, I need you to reissue my visa. They have a process by which they can do that. If their process is it can be renewed within the same fiscal year, but they have made exceptions, of course. Obviously, in DV cases, DV 2020, they issued a whole bunch of visas in February and January to people. So their rule is garbage. So if they refuse to issue you as a plaintiff, reissue the visa that you had because too much time has passed or the fiscal year is different, you need to let us know individually. Greg, do we have a reporting site for that yet, or do you want people to email only one of us?
We don't have a. We don't have a.
I'm going to ask you to email me. Email me. Don't email Greg. He's got enough freaking emails. All right. So email me.
1,000 a day. That's what it's averaging right now.
All right. Now, actually, Andre asked a great question. Do we still insist the proclamation? Of course we do. That's the bad faith of the government. Is now they just want to say, oh, it just went away. It's like magic. Unicorns and rainbows and fairies. Everything's good now. Let's sing Kumbaya. And I mean, what they did was illegal. They shouldn't get the benefit by the illegal act. Keep in mind, they just released the numbers for last fiscal year on immigrant visas. And they issued, something like 8% of the available family visas last year. And they're well on their way to do the same thing this year unless they get ordered to do so. So, yes, we'll be fighting on this. Okay? Okay, Ashim, thank you very much for your question about the high numbers. This is why the 55,000 visas are being asked for. And unfortunately, I'm not sure I carry enough karma to enlighten you. Greg, how's your karma? Can you enlighten him? I don't know. I don't have enough. Jennifer's probably got tons of karma that will help enlighten you, but I think we've done a good job of explaining this.
Hold on. Let me ask you, Chuck. So from the question, it says prioritizing 150 plaintiffs is not a big deal, and I guess that's a reference to prioritizing that over the class. So how do you respond to that? What are we doing that's not prioritizing the plaintiffs?
Well, we are prioritizing the plaintiffs whose numbers in the DV lottery are current. Absolutely, we're going to get you in right away on these cases. That's what we're going to do. If your number is not ready for interview or won't be accepted, there's literally nothing we can do. We cannot. That's the law. We cannot change the law. We're not challenging the law, and we never promised you we could. All right. We promised you we're going to do our best to get this thing lifted so you had a chance for an interview. All right. Andrea, the consulates are starting to take cases. Again, it's only been 2 days. All right. Let's see. This is Craig is an EB1 out of London. EB1s were included in our lawsuit. If you are an Untitled plaintiff on this, we will be fighting to get you the interview there. Again, we're going to have to wait and see what the judge should do. If the judge rules, no, you need to interview these people, and it's only for plaintiffs, then you as a plaintiff, you'll write to them. I'm a plaintiff. We'll give you a template, and they'll get you in. If you're not a plaintiff, then you're just stuck in the line with the rest of the folks. For Bogota as a Venezuelan winner, Bogota has been opened and closed a lot in the last month or so. And if you have a relatively low number for Venezuela, say, sir, I'd be emailing them every day and say, I've got a low number when you interviewing me, especially if you're completed at the KCC and your interview ready. By the way, we have to shout out to our friend Britt Simon says, if it's not on Twitter, it can't be real. If you have questions about numbers and processing, please follow Simon. Okay, follow him on YouTube. He's got the latest information, and he's just really on top of this stuff. Okay. Okay. Any decision from the government from Johnny? Been a month. We should have had a decision a month ago. Honestly, I can't give you a timeline. Other than that, we are asking constantly for appointments here. All right. Let's see. I did that thing again where it skips ahead. Okay. Are willing to share this on the YouTube channel? Yes, we will. I will put this up on YouTube when we're done. Okay. Somebody's glad you have a new mic, Aaron. I didn't know you had a bad mic before.
Yeah, I had a terrible one for a while, so.
Yeah.
Makes a difference.
All right. Oh, by the way, our friend here, Craig, in London, the EB1. Craig, you need to file since we're not going to add EB1 plaintiffs to Anunciato, you need to talk to a law firm, one of us or another, just to file an individual mandamus. Yeah. And I think you're going to get a pretty quick response to that as an EB1. And thank you, Brandon. We do. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. I'm just kind of going through the questions here. Okay, Fozzie, just to repeat, the judge cannot order appointments for people whose numbers are not current. That's not how it works. As we said earlier, we're going to argue their bad faith in not advancing the visa bulletin like they have in previous years. So, again, we'll be protecting you on that. Aline, this is Anunciato. You can thank her for being the lead plaintiff. Aline, aren't you in the United States? Didn't you come on a visit recently? I'm just saying, aren't you here? Brazil's a problem because it's a nightmare situation down there. Yes, if you can get a third country to take you now, absolutely, you can transfer that. And Phil, our friend Phil, we love Phil. Timeline, again, we're going to be talking to the judge. We hope next week, but he hasn't gotten back to us here. Okay. Okay. Let's see. A lot of these are the same questions over here over and over again. Simon actually answered an earlier question for us. Egypt cases are contrary to those numbers because of how the draw works. So Mahmoud Huda, you are not a very high number. This is why ask the number questions to Simon. He knows. Nobody here is a number expert. We're great on the visa bulletin for family and business, but DV is a strange animal. And somebody like Simon is perfectly suited, who's done it for years, to give you a number. Let's see. Now, Brandon, this is why fighting for the numbers and reserving them. So what we'll be asking Judge Seaborg to do is exactly what Judge Mehta did. But instead of coming some cockamamie math issue, we hit him early enough and hard enough to know that all 55,000 have to be reserved. So that's why I feel pretty confident about that issue at this point. All right. Let's see. Right. Anunciato, Craig, cannot force embassies in the Schengen ban countries to issue visas. Right. Now, again, that's an illegal interpretation too. So what you tell them is issue my visa. My plan is to go somewhere else for 14 days. So tell them that in an email. If they still refuse to interview you, then you sue them. And I think you'll win very quickly.
It's also good to get them to say in an email response that they are not going to issue you a visa because that's their interpretation of the law. Yeah,
that's an illegal interpretation of law that we've consistently won. Osama wants to know if we guarantee plaintiffs priority. We're lawyers. We don't guarantee anything other than we'll make the hardest efforts to get you in the place you need to be to win your case. All right? That's the way it is. You want a guarantee? Talk to a used car salesman. All right. Let's see. Lisbeth, you can only join one lawsuit. All right. You can only sue the government one time for an issue that you have. So you can't join multiple lawsuits. Just FYI. Let's see. This is hilarious. Somebody said, right after it was lifted, and 1 hour later said, now see, litigations are not necessary. Why do you think the ban was lifted?
Yeah, it just magically happened. The timing was basically to avoid a hearing on Monday.
Exactly. The judge made us set that Monday hearing. Within 24 hours, the order was lifted. Trust me, they wouldn't have lifted otherwise. Okay. Let's see. Can the judge make embassies work? Yeah, no. Sorry.
Well, it depends.
Well,
it depends why they're not working. If they are not working for health reasons, then no. But if they are not working just because they are not working on there, then that's a different story.
Simon asked this question. If you're in the United States on a valid non-immigrant visa, do you have to leave the country to go back to the embassy for a green card? Or can you wait 90 days and apply for adjustment of status here? Aaron, what can you do after 90 days?
Assuming eligibility, assuming you haven't done anything to jeopardize your adjustment eligibility, like work unlawfully or go out of status, then you're going to be able to adjust status.
Now, understand the 90-day rule is a Department of State rule. It's not a USCIS rule. Now, it's a safe harbor. You will have no problems if you wait 90 days, but some lawyers say 60 days is good enough, which reflects the old USCIS policy. It's not even it's not a policy. It's not a rule. It's not written anywhere. It's just what these guys know. They're kind of taught look for that in consequences of fraud. Okay. Ashim makes a good point. Delayed interviews make the visa bulletin move slow, except not always, because the employment-based numbers are moving faster. The family-based numbers are moving at the same speed. It's just this. And that's why we're going to be putting pressure on them to try to fix this.
Well, we also know that Charlie has made changes in response to the bans on there. I mean, we had a period of time where we had DV was current because the only people that were able to apply for were in the United States.
Okay.
So he can respond to this, and hopefully he will.
We got a couple last questions here. First one is transferring to a third country. Basically, you contact the other embassy, you explain to them your urgent, emergent need, and ask them to accept your case. And if they do, then that begins the process of getting your case over there. Okay. Raymond, this is not part of our today, but we have asked Judge Mehta in our motion for summary judgment to change his mind on the 9,095. But if he stays with that they don't become available until after his final order, which will probably be sometime in April or May. Hashtag overflow is why they lifted the ban. Yeah, you can believe in popcorn and rainbows as well. All right. Let's see. And Aline is in San Francisco. You're welcome, Aline. You might want to talk to your lawyer about your options instead of going back to Brazil. All right. Thank you, everybody. By the way, you're welcome to tell people you're a named plaintiff in Anunciato, and they'll say, what's Anunciato? The consulates don't have an order, so they'll just say you're like everybody else. Until there's an order, but yeah, you can say it, but it doesn't mean anything at this point without an order. All right. All right. Charlie doesn't have a Twitter, by the way, Brendan. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend. We will be updating you as soon as we have word from the court. Yes, Jennifer's very quiet. She's here to make sure we don't say anything dumb. That's why Jennifer's here. She's like the school mom. No, don't say that. So we'll see you with Monday night is our next Facebook Live, right, Greg?
Yes, sir.
And we're going to do that on our YouTube channel for Impact Litigation. And so we will see you guys then. Have a great night, a great weekend, everybody.